Hey everybody, this is Kirsten here. Thank you so much for joining me today for this new episode of A Better Way with Kirsten podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, I would really appreciate if you could leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe to this channel because that way you get notifications every time when I post a new episode. If you are listening to it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please share the episode there too, and you can also leave me a 5-star rating and review. This is the most valuable thing that you can do if you want to help out a little bit and help more people to find this show. Today we are going to talk about what to do when you get stuck in your chronic pain or chronic symptom recovery, and I'm going to read to you a little bit about getting stuck from one of the books that I really have been enjoying recently. And I want to say that, if you get stuck, first of all, let's normalize it because everybody gets stuck. Everybody on this TMS recovery journey will get stuck once in a while. You may make a little bit of progress and then you hit a wall and maybe even go backwards. And then you feel like, oh my God, this is awful. This is not going to work. And I don't want you to think this way because this is not going to move you forward. This journey is full of obstacles. I'm sure you've noticed already. And it's not linear. It's very rare that people recover very quickly. They read a book. Maybe it is John Sarno's Healing Back Pain or John Sarno's Mind-Body Prescription, which was my first introduction to this TMS world. When my acupuncturist handed me this book and said, this is what you are dealing with. Go read this book. I know your personality. You need this. Then this is how I first got introduced to it. It was a great book, but it didn't heal me. A lot of times, it doesn't happen quickly, but there are people who are so-called book cures, which means that, yes, they read the book, whether it is one of Sarno's books or Steve Ozanich's book or Alan Gordon's The Way Out, and they will heal from that. And I think this is fantastic. Something really clicks in their brain really quickly, and they're like, that was it. Okay, this is what I needed to know, and their pain just leaves. But this is still rare. I think this is pretty rare, and more often than not, we have a longer journey ahead of us if we want to recover from this thing fully. And when you think about it, whatever new thing you learn in life that you didn't know before, it always takes time to get there, doesn't it? And as you may know, I have been a nutrition coach and personal trainer for so many years too, and helping women with their weight loss and fat loss goals. And there too, this journey is not linear. It's not very easy. It's not like, I figured that I want to lose 20 pounds, so I get there in 2 weeks. It doesn't work like this. And over the course of 4 and something years that I have done nutrition coaching, I can literally count on one hand the cases where people's weight loss, fat loss was linear every week they lost. It's super, super rare. There are some people, but they're like those book cures in the TMS world. It's so, so rare. Most people in weight loss too, they have obstacles, They lose a little bit and then they stall for a second and then they go down a little bit and then they stop for a second. But over time with, dedicated effort and habits, good habits, we will get to our goal, and TMS exactly the same way. Now, we do hit obstacles. There will be problems along the way, and sometimes it can take not only months, but even years to overcome them. And it is important that we don't worry about it, like where we are, or if somebody else is faster, or how long it's going to take. I think this makes things only worse. So what's more important is that we stay on track and we keep doing the things we know that help us. Now, talking about getting stuck and just don't know what to do next, having this really difficult moment, I want to read to you from this book that I read also 2 episodes ago when I talked about shame. And the book is Melanie Beattie's The Language of Letting Go. Now, I want you to know that this is not a TMS book. It's not. It's actually about codependency. So the full title says The Language of Letting Go, Daily Meditations on Codependency. And when I picked up this book, it was actually at Goodwill. So I like to sometimes go there and see what kind of books they have and pick something fun up every now and then. And when I opened this book there, and yes, it is about codependency, but when I started reading just like some random chapters, I realized that this advice here applies to TMS so well also. And not only that, it actually applies to life. It's like great life advice too. And as I kept reading, I picked up the book, I bought it, I came home with it, I started reading, I'm like, this, yes. It was like, oh my God, it's so good. I felt like so supported. It was so helpful. There are definitely a couple of chapters that I read and shed some tears because it was like, oh my God, yes, this is so true. And that's why you see, if you watch this on YouTube, you see like all these notes that I have here, little post-it notes. There's a lot. And every now and then I open one of them if I need like more support. I read it again and I find that support. And it's really, really great book. So if you want to pick it up, just keep in mind this is not a TMS recovery book. Just take it as like a general life advice. And she has in this book this chapter that's called Surviving Slumps. And I want to read to you from this chapter some parts of it, not all of it, but some parts that I find that are really, really relevant for TMS recovery as well. I'm going to read you a little chapter and then add my comments and then move on to the next part, next paragraph. All right, so let's get started. Surviving slumps. A slump can go on for days. We feel sluggish, unfocused, and sometimes overwhelmed with feelings we can't sort out. We may not understand what is going on with us. Even our attempts to practice recovery behaviors may not appear to work. We still don't feel emotionally, mentally, and spiritually as good as we would like. This is, I think, a perfect example of what's going on when we hit a wall with our recovery, when everything feels kind of hopeless. We're like, oh, it's not working. We feel like emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically also very stuck, and we don't know what's up. What is going on? And she also says that even our attempts to practice recovery behaviors don't seem to work. These recovery behaviors are so different for everybody, I find. Of course, the overarching theme here is that when we have TMS, we are dealing with too much stress. Something is stressing us out. A lot of times what's stressing us out is not necessarily external, it's internal. It's our thought processes, it is our emotional health. It's all the worries and the concerns and the what ifs that we put in our heads. This stuff can really stress us out. But of course, it can also come from outside. But at the end of the day, it's still internal. Like how we perceive the things that happen outside of us and how we perceive this in our minds. That's what's making all the difference. Because two people can look at the same situation and see it differently, right? So recovery behaviors can be different for everybody. Like I said, stress is a big overarching theme here, but how you handle stress, this really depends on the person. And now when you're stuck, you may be feeling like, okay, I'm doing all the things. I'm doing, maybe you like the somatic tracking or positivity or emotional work or movement. I'm doing all these things, but nothing helps. So this is how you know that, okay, I'm stuck. And then she continues. In a slump, we may find ourselves reverting instinctively to old patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving, even when we know better. We may find ourselves obsessing, even when we know that what we're doing is obsessing and that it doesn't work. So she talks about going back to old habits, old ways of thinking and feeling. And this is totally natural. It's so normal, but we have to catch it. What is an example of this going back to old thinking? Well, you can think like you are walking in a forest and you're walking on a path and it's clear you have walked there like 1,000 times. And this is probably your negativity path. This is like, oh, it's not going to go well. Like, I'm not feeling good. This is going to be around forever. All these negative thoughts. And you're walking on this path because there's no resistance there. It's easy. You've been thinking this way for a long time. Maybe since the symptoms started, but also probably before that, because it was your thinking, it was your mindset and emotions that actually got you to the point where you now started feeling it physically. There's a good chance that you have been thinking this way and walking the same path for years and years and years. And that's why it's so easy to go back there when you get into this slump that she's talking about. And that's why we have to start changing our patterns and walking a different path, creating a different path. And when you walk in this forest now, then you got to start walking somewhere where there is no clear path yet. Maybe there's lots of grass and branches and who knows what, and you have to start walking there. This is your new positive path, and you have to start walking on that one so that you can change your brain. I'm sure you've heard the term brain retraining if you want to recover from TMS. And this is really what you have to do. You have to retrain your brain so that it can now put you on a different path. You have to create this path. And I think it's so right when she says that, we find ourselves going back to old ways, and it's automatic, it's instinctive. It is. And that's why we have to become super aware of what we're doing. It is hard to do. It was so hard for me to do too, because the tendency was always like, let's go back on that familiar path, but it doesn't work. That's what's keeping us stuck. Then she also says, when we're in a slump, it won't last forever. These periods are normal and even necessary. These are the days to get through. These are the days to focus on recovery behaviors, whether or not the rewards occur immediately. These are sometimes the days to let ourselves be and love ourselves as much as we can. Okay, she talks again about our recovery behaviors. It's time to practice them. And she says that these slumps are even necessary. Obviously, they're not pleasant. They're not fun at all. Like, nobody wants them. We want to be over with this thing. Like, let's just stop it, done, moving on. We want that. But if we change our perspective a little bit, we can look at it this way. Okay, I had a sensation. I had a bad day. I'm in a slump. I can now practice. I can get better and better at retraining my brain or walking this new path. And the more I do it, the better I feel in the future, because now I have a new path. Look at it as practice. Look at it as an opportunity to practice, and practice again, even if it is not pleasant. What I really like, and I remember when I first read this and really it really touched me, was when she says that these are the days to let ourselves be and love ourselves as much as we can. This is self-compassion. Hate doesn't go very far. Like being mean or being frustrated, right? This is what I did all the time. I got so frustrated. They don't help. What helps is self-compassion. Of course, if you do get like angry, like, oh, why is it here? Like, don't numb the emotion, like feel it, but then still replace it with compassion, kindness. It's going to be all right, right? It's going to be all right. Even if you had a negative emotion around it, it's still going to be all right. Just you have to have that more positive attitude. The next thing she says is this. We don't have to be ashamed, no matter how long we've been recovering. We don't have to unreasonably expect more from ourselves. We don't ever have to expect ourselves to live life perfectly. This is to all of my perfectionist friends out there who think that everything they do has to be perfect and recovery has to be perfect as well. It doesn't, and I don't think it even can be. Like, what is perfect recovery? Like, every day you get better and better and better, and every day symptoms are dropping. I think it's super, super rare. You don't have to do this perfectly, and you also don't have to shame yourself for not being there yet. And again, this is what I struggled a lot. I was like, oh my God, it's been already like 6 years, and kind of seeing the people around me getting better and me not getting better, and it was really bad. It was like, oh, I started creating the story that I'm somehow different and weak. It was just low self-worth, low self-esteem, no trust in myself. But you can't allow that. You have to let go of perfectionism. You have to let go of like what others are doing and focus on your path and accept the fact that it can take long. Sometimes it takes super long, and you're still going to be all right at the end. The next thing she says here is this. Get through the slump. It will end. Sometimes a slump can go on for days, and then in the course of an hour, we see ourselves pull out of it and feel better. Sometimes it can last a little longer. Pretty common, I think, isn't it? You will get stuck in this like, oh, negativity, and it's not going to get better, this story. And it goes on and on and on. And then eventually you're going to decide that this is it. That's enough, Let's stop this. It's been going on for way too long. It's time to pick myself up again. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to do the work. Even if you have a coach or mentor, or you follow a lot of people on Instagram who are encouraging and inspiring, this is all great. But at the end of the day, you're the one who has to pick yourself up. And like she says, sometimes, it can go on for days and weeks. And then all of a sudden you're like, that's it. I'm going to pull myself out of it. And I used to do this so much when I would get like so stuck and my negative mood would really take over. I would get really depressed, and I would just, I would be like this for weeks sometimes, and not knowing what I need to do. Here's one thing, like for me personally, it didn't help to say I'm safe. I tried this. It didn't really click. It didn't have meaning to me. But when I started going deeper and learning more about the personality traits, the way I'm handling stress, my emotional health. This is the work that I had to do. And so it was only then that I started to feel better. And when I started seeing progress by doing these things, this is when I started to feel like, oh, it's kind of working a little bit. Isn't it awesome? Okay, now I know what to do. And that's what I meant before when I said that everybody has tools that help them maybe a little bit better than some other tools. Now, she says also that practice one recovery behavior in one small area and begin to climb uphill. Soon the slump will disappear. We can never judge where we will be tomorrow by where we are today. I think this is a really important reminder that if you're feeling crappy today or you felt crappy this morning, it doesn't mean that your whole day is going to be terrible. You can decide that you want to live your day differently. It can still get better. It absolutely can get better if you set your expectation right and then you start using the tools that you know have helped you. It's really important, I think, to know which ones help you and which ones are kind of whatever, right? A lot of people find somatic tracking super helpful. I personally don't, but a lot of people do. Other people find journaling super helpful, and I like that. It seems to work for me. Others feel like the movement helps. Yes, I raise my hand here, absolutely. And, emotional work helps. Asking yourself, how am I feeling right now? I raise my hand here, absolutely helps me. But some other things like saying, I'm safe. Doesn't do much for me, but maybe for you it does. I know actually that it does help a lot of people, which is great. Know your tools and then start using them, and little by little you will start coming out of it. And the more you practice it, the easier it gets to start pulling yourself out of it, because you realize that I don't want to spend more time in this crappy situation, and it is up to me. I have to pick myself up and move forward. So the author ends each chapter with a little meditation, and for this day it says this. Today, I will focus on practicing one recovery behavior on one of my issues, trusting that this practice will move me forward. I will remember that acceptance, gratitude, and detachment are a good place to begin. I really like this one because it brings you back to the most important things, right? How can I start getting myself out of it? She says acceptance, gratitude, and detachment. These are really important. And just recently, when I was in one of those slumps, I used exactly this. I opened this book, I read this chapter again, and then I journaled about what can I accept right now, what can I be grateful for right now, and what can I let go of. So this is the detachment part. Now, acceptance can be like, okay, I accept that my back is really in a lot of pain right now. I accept it. Because you have to accept. You can't, if you fight and push, there's more resistance. It's not going to work very likely. Accept, then gratitude. What can I be grateful for? Well, there's so many different things that we can be grateful for. So many. For example, you could say, yeah, my back hurts, but I'm grateful that my legs are totally fine. Or it doesn't even have to have anything to do with your body or with your TMS. It can be like, I'm grateful that I have a car. I'm grateful that I have a bed to sleep in. They're not actually simple things. In a way they are, but when you think like how many people don't have these luxuries, then you see that you do have a lot. And then the last piece, detachment. Okay, what can I let go of? So in this situation, detachment can be like, I'm going to let go of trying to control this situation so hard. I'm going to let go of these depressive thoughts. I'm going to let go of this story that I should have recovered already 3 years ago. Just gonna let that all go. And I feel like when you have this I let go and I accept attitude, it's not the same thing I'm giving up. It's like you're releasing some blockages. It's like things can flow through you easier and you feel lighter as a result. I always remember how one of my friends talked about money, like accepting money and like making it come to you. So if you want more money, you cannot take the money you have and put it in your hand and keep your fist closed really tight so that the little bit that you have wouldn't go away. Because if you do it, then yes, the little bit you have won't go away, but you also cannot receive more. If you, on the other hand, you open your hand, yes, you maybe lose this little bit, but then you're also open for more. More can come in. And this is how I see this allowing and detachment work. I think it works exactly the same way. When you allow, You let things just flow through you easier. When you're not attached to outcomes or timelines, then you're probably going to do better because you're taking the pressure off of yourself. This is a big thing in TMS too. It puts just so much pressure on ourselves. So when we let that pressure down, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna let go, I'm gonna detach, and I'm looking for right this moment, what can I be grateful for? Things get a lot easier for you. So don't try to control the outcomes so hard. Okay, this is what I had for you today, how to deal with setbacks or feeling stuck in recovery. I hope that this episode today helped you. And if you would like to leave me a comment on YouTube, I really love those comments. So please go ahead and do that. And if you want to contact me on Instagram, you can absolutely do that. Share your thoughts with me, or if you have recommendations for future episodes, I'm always excited to hear your thoughts as well. So thank you so much for being here today, and I see you in the next episode. Take care.